Okay, so we should be on this page here. And we're going to go through today, like I said, about how to do some dilations, but using our compass and our paint stick to help us do that. This is going to require us to maybe kind of think back to what we did at the beginning of the school year with these, because you're going to have to be able to measure with a compass. And there's also going to be things where we're taking something times like a half, or we're taking it 2.5 times or something like that. And so we'll also have to talk about how do we handle those situations with our compass again. And if you remember when I did these way back in August, I always used the doc cam because I can't do it on my software that I use for my notes and stuff. So I'm going to kind of switch gears here. Make sure if at any point throughout the lesson you guys can't see what I'm writing, that you tell me, because I don't always catch that because I get kind of zoned in up here. So make sure if I'm going off the screen or it's getting fuzzy or blurry that you just let me know and I'll adjust it, okay? All right, so this first one here, really all three of them on this page, they have that dilation notation on it, so we probably should check that out first before we even try to do anything. We need to identify two things, the center and the scale factor. So for the first one, what's my center point? O. And then what's my scale factor? 3. So I want to take this segment AB and I want to make it 3 times as long as it is right now. To do that and to kind of make sure that we put it in the right spot, because we don't ever want to eyeball where we think this should go. We want to make sure that we get it exactly where it needs to be. We need to draw in all those lines that connected the center to the points that we're trying to dilate. Do you guys remember what they called those lines on that Desmos activity? They had like a special name. It started with a P. They were called projection lines. And they just kind of project out into the space of where your shape should go. So what I'm going to do is I'm connecting with my paint stick here, the center point O to A, and I'm just going to do a dotted line. You could do a solid line if you'd like. It doesn't have to be dotted. But I'm just going to extend that out, and I'm going to go way out onto my paper. Don't just go to A and then stop. Have it go all the way. I'm going all the way to the edge of my paper here because I know that this is going to have to be 3 times as long, which means I'm going to probably need some space to do that. If you remember when we did constructions at the beginning of the year, I would always tell you, especially when you were like drawing arcs and stuff in, I'd say always go bigger than you think you need to, because you don't want to have to go back and redo the work that you had already done before. I'm going to do the same thing from O to B. I'm going to draw on that projection line. And again, I'm going out pretty far here. All right, how should we measure how long this is going to be? Anyone have a guess? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the compass should go from O to A and then keep going.
Like keep adding them on, right? Okay, so let's talk about this because we do have to do 3 times. So I agree with him in that I'm going to set my compass right here to O to A. So I've got my compass set O to A here. Now, when we do 3 times, what point do we start counting from?
A.
Do we start from A? Why O?
Because
Because it's the center. Remember when we did those problems, especially even on our bell ringer today, we kind of refreshed what we did at the end of class yesterday on the number line-ish kind of problem. We always started at the center, right, when we were counting. So I want to make sure that you guys all know when you start counting 3 times here, you have to start at O. If you start at the points, which happens, sometimes we make that mistake, you're going to get something that's too big, okay? So I want to start at O to A. So this is actually already 1. Where should I go for 2? Where do I move my compass to? Put my pointer on A. So this is going to be 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a little mark just so I kind of know this is where 2 is at. And then what should I do? Yeah, go one more, move my pointer up to that dash that I just drew, and then I'm going to go again. Okay, so I'm just going to double check that. That's 1, 2, 3. And then what should I label this point as? A prime. So I'm going to put a little dot on there. Scoot this over a little bit. And we call that A prime. All right, how do we do the bottom half? Same way, but we measure O to B. And again, where do we start counting? O. So here's 1. And then we come over to B. There's 2. Then you go to that dash. There's 3. And again, how do I label this point? B prime. Is there anything else you think we should do? Probably connect A prime and B prime because the original segment was connected here. So my new one should probably also be connected. So I'm just going to grab my paint stick and I'm just going to connect these 2 dots together. And then you could probably check this if you wanted to. Now, depending on how you're measuring, you want to try to be as precise as possible. So if it's off a little bit, it's not a big deal. But what you could do is you could actually measure how long your segment is, like from A to B here. And then you could come up, you could start at A and you could just do like, here's 1, here's 2, and then 3 should be on B, which mine's really, really close, but maybe I didn't set this up, perfectly. So if I maybe stretch it out just a little bit more, it'd probably be about right. Now, if you're getting something when you check it and it's way too big, that probably means like you started counting from the wrong spot. But it does make sense that that looks like it's about 3 times the length of the original one. Okay? Any questions on that first one? Okay, let's go on to the second one here. What is the second one wanting us to do? Make it half of its original size right now. Okay, so if we look at this one, what's my center point? Still O. O is still kind of off here to the side. And you said we have to go half, so that's our scale factor. Again, first thing I'm going to do is draw in those projection lines because that just lets me know about where it's going to be. Now this time, just before I even do it, do I have to make my projection lines go like way out here?
No.
No, because where should the shape really kind of be? Closer to O, right? Because it got a half. So it should be in this area somewhere. So I'm not really concerned about making these projection lines super big. But if you can kind of think through that, you kind of would then know, okay, where should I be drawing these projection lines at? And how long should I be making them? Okay. Now I want to do half of AB. And again, I don't want to see anybody eyeballing where they think half is. I'm giving you tools. We should be able to use them to help us actually figure out where halfway is. Now you've done this before. You've had to find halfway of like a line segment or something on a shape before. How do we do it though? Does anyone remember what you're supposed to do with your compass?
You start on O and then you go like a little bit past the half point and you make an arch.
Like a big arc. Yes. So she was saying you start at O and you set your pencil so that it's a little over halfway. So I'm going to go like to about here because that probably, if I'm going from O to A, that's probably a little over halfway here. And then she was saying you're going to draw arcs. You're going to draw an arc from O and you're going to draw an arc from A. And so you should have an arc that's like here and another one that comes here. You want them to cross because that helps you find where the middle point would be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start at O. And I'm going to draw an arc here. And I'm just going to switch. I'm going to put my pointer at A, and I'm going to draw another arc. And then remember where those crosses happen, that lets you know where to line up your paint stick so you can get halfway. So I'm just going to mark on my segment about where that is. It's like right there. I don't need to draw like a really big line because I'm not too concerned about drawing another huge line in here. I just need a marking to let me know where my A prime is going to go. So you can see I just did a little dash there, and then I'm going to label this A prime. Then we're going to do the exact same thing down below, but you're going to have to maybe remeasure because you want to go O to B now and still go a little over halfway. I also see that when I do this, my arcs are probably going to start to maybe interfere with each other. If that's really confusing for you, something that I would maybe suggest, if you have like a colored pen or a highlighter or something, go over these original arcs really quick with that so that when you draw in your new set, you know to use the non-highlighted ones or the non-like colored over ones. That way you're not maybe getting too confused. If it starts to get overwhelming or you have a lot of arcs in a picture, you're doing this a lot of different times, that would be one option that you could do in order to maybe help you kind of clarify what you're supposed to be using. Okay, so I'm going to do this side now. And so right there is about where I found my B prime to be. And then again, just like before, we're going to connect those. And there's about half. And again, it looks right to me. It looks like that would be about where I would guess half is. But again, I don't want to just see you mark it. I need to see the arcs because that's kind of like showing your work. Just like if you were solving an equation, I would want to see you show your steps on that. This is the equivalent when we're doing constructions. I want to see your work. Now, before we do this next one, take a look at these two really quick with me. Is there anything you think we could say about like the original segment and the new one on both of these examples? Not so much about like their lengths. I'm not focused on how much they are right now, but look at more so on how they're facing. Maddox? They're parallel to each other. Okay, so when you guys are doing your dilations, your corresponding sides or your corresponding segment pieces that you're working with should be parallel to each other. Or they should like overlap. There will be times where maybe your sides overlap. It just really depends on where your center of rotation is or dilation is. So in this case, this side or this segment is parallel to this segment up here, and the same thing's happening down here. So now if you guys go to this last one, this time we're doing like a whole triangle shape here. Okay, the same thing's going to happen. When you make your new triangle, all the corresponding sides should be parallel to each other. So when I dilate side AB, the new A prime B prime should be parallel to that side. If you start to do your dilation and all of a sudden those sides that have the same letters are interfering with each other, like they're crossing in different directions, you're making an X on your picture, you probably are doing something wrong and you should stop and like try to go back and see what happened there. It's okay if they get really, really close together, like AB could be as close to this line as possible on either side, because if it got smaller, it'd be going towards E. It's also okay if it lands on top of itself if your center is in a certain spot. And you'll see a couple of those even today on your homework when we start to like throw different centers in the problem that we maybe don't see exclusively here in our notes. And that'll kind of change what your shapes start to look like. All right, so let's look at this one here. What are they wanting us to do? What's the scale factor?
1.5 bigger.
1.5 times bigger. And what's my center this time? E. Now this center is on the inside of the shape. We have not seen that yet because the other two had the center like off to the side. So this time it's on the interior of the shape. So when you do your dilation, it's going to be a little bit different. The first thing I'm going to do is draw out my projection lines. And you're going to connect E to A, E to B, and E to C because we're doing 3 points here. Okay, we've got those in, so we at least kind of have tracks for where we know these need to be. And we're going to do 1.5. Let's start with the segment E to A. So let's go ahead and measure E to A with my compass. Okay, so now here's the part where you need to be careful. Because when we start counting, where did I say earlier in class that you always start from? The center. So my pointer is already on the center right now, correct? So this distance that I already have, isn't this already 1? And if I go down here to EB, is this already 1? Yeah. So the good news is you don't really have to add on any length here for that 1 because it's already in the picture because of where the center is right now. Now, if the center was like here instead, this would still count as 1 and this would count as 1 because you start from the center when you begin your counting. What else do I need to add on though? The half. So I'm going to have to do some more bisecting. So what you can do is measure a little over halfway on the interior here to get those halfway points. And then once I get my halfway point, that's what I need to add on. So that's what I'm going to put onto A, the B, and the C to get my a little over halfway. So I'm going to start doing that up here. I'm going to start with E to A. I'm going to measure a little over half. And I'm going to draw an arc from E. And I'm going to draw an arc from A. And then I'm going to get that halfway point marked so I can use it. And I'm just going to do a little dash, and I'm not even going to put a letter by it because that's not what I want to label with my A prime. I'm now just going to measure E to the halfway point there. And then I'm going to come up here to A, put my pointer on A, and I'm going to make a mark out here on those projection lines, and that's where I'm going to put my A prime. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other segments. Okay, so I've got all of my A prime, B prime, C prime points done. Now the only other thing I'm going to do is connect them to actually make my triangle. And there we go. And something that I'll just say, because when I did this myself, like the first time, I did count incorrectly and I made mine too big. Like I started counting from A, B, and C, and I went 1 and then a half. And then I looked at it, I was like, well, that doesn't look right. And then I realized I didn't start from the center. So it's possible that you might make that mistake, okay? Because if I make that mistake, other people are going to do it too. So I'm just trying to caution you on that. Always start at your center point and work your way out. Don't start on the actual points that you're dilating. Now, the only time that might happen where you do start on the point that you're dilating is if the center is actually on the shape that you're working with. So for example, if I was doing the same problem here, but they had told me that my center was A instead, then your triangles are going to overlap a little bit because A is not going to move. Because remember, the center point never changes. It doesn't move anywhere on your picture at all. And you'll see at least one that's like that on your homework today. So if you get a little bit confused about that. The other thing I want to talk about, because this will be on your homework too, is you will see negative scale factors. What do we do when we're working with a negative scale factor? You go the other way. So on this case, for example, if I was working with a negative scale factor, I would have maybe wanted to make my projection lines go all the way through like A and then have it come down on the other side of E, because then when you do your 1.5, you'd go this direction instead. You'll also have some of those on your homework today too. If you get confused by that, let us know, because there's 2 of us in here that can help you with that, okay? Any questions on those constructions that we did? All right, so we're going to get you guys the homework, and you've got the rest of the class to be working on that.